All right. Hey, everyone. What's going on? Welcome to Thursday. I had to think what day it was there. Yeah, thank you guys for joining. Well, we are waiting for Rashad, but in the meantime, I've got some guests with me. I've got Norin Radd89, Jason, and Ryan. How we doing, fellas?
Doing good. Solid. What you doing, Mike?
Doing good. Jason's been working out before the stream.
Yeah.
Nice.
You've got to show them guns off, Jason. You've got to show them off.
The Hulk Hogan pose.
Jason, are we going to do a Hulkster impression?
I tell you something, brother. Or me and Gene. All the Hulk in the world come together. I don't know.
Not bad, Jason. Not bad. But yeah, before we start things off, I do want to say to anyone who's watching live or after the fact, all the links to my guest channel, Norin Radd89, Jason Old Millennial, Not Your Normal Geek, down below in the description box. Go show these guys some love, and Rashad as well. His link's down there as well.
I bet G could do an impression.
Rashad, yeah, he probably could.
He probably do an impression about every wrestler, I'm sure.
He's great with impressions, Rashad. I've been doing them as well with like, and I've been like, "What you gonna do, brother?"
Over you. Yeah.
Hey, honestly, man, it's been good. But no, so we'll go on a little bit of history of this as well. So I watched this with my partner Emma, who in the past few months only started getting into the wrestling. She used to watch it a little bit as a kid, but I kind of grew up with like the Attitude Era and so forth into current day. Ryan, how about yourself? We'll start with you first. So what's your experience been like growing up with wrestling? Did you grow up with it? And did you fall off the bandwagon for a while and you're back onto it? Where do you stand with wrestling?
Yeah, a lot like yourself, Mike. Very much the Attitude Era is where I started really paying attention at that point. The Rock was just like everything to me at that time. I used to have every VHS of him. I don't know if anybody's watched it. Know Your Role was a really good like documentary look on The Rock's career through WWE. That's really worth checking out. It's probably quite hard to get a hold of, but yeah, Attitude Era. And as it gets into the documentary around the 2012 era, I just dropped way off. It completely went in a weird direction that just I couldn't get into. Everything opposite to what the Attitude Era was. So yeah, at that point I fell off. And as you can tell down here somewhere, I'm now more AEW than WWE.
Okay.
WWE is pulling us back a little bit. Much like Munster's University with the rope where he pulls them in. That's WWE with me at the minute.
Well, it's awesome hearing your experience writing about wrestling and kind of getting back onto it, but also, because I know you saw AEW live in London as well, 2023, right?
Yeah, and one of my favourite parts, not to spoil the documentary too much, but it mentions WrestleMania 30, and that was amazing to see because I was there in person to see the streak get beat, and it was great to see some behind the scenes on that.
Wow.
Nice. Oh, 1 second. 1 second. Hold up. Goddamn. How come this thing
We started making an entrance. Here he is.
I can't hear it. Hey, give me 1 second, y'all.
Oh, good.
We can hear you. I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, don't worry, Ryan, about spoilers, by the way, because we're going to be talking full spoilers on this documentary. So I guess if you haven't seen it, get the hell out of here and come back to this live stream. But yeah, WrestleMania 30 was a big moment, and we'll certainly touch on that because this documentary does that as well, Ryan. So we'll come back to you on that as well. Norin, how about yourself? Like, where do you stand on wrestling in this current state, and also childhood as well?
Well, I'm a major wrestling fan, and yeah, mainly started because of my grandpa and stuff. So at a young age, I would watch wrestling with him, and when he started me watching wrestling, that was like new generation era. So it was like Bret Hart versus Shawn was taking off. WCW was like getting its legs under, or getting its feet going and stuff like that. So that was kind of my main starting era. Then playing video games, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and just constantly like going to the school, talking to the friends about your favorite wrestlers and your favorite games and stuff. So that was kind of my main era. And then the time I kind of fell off is about the same time Ryan said he did. So around like 2012 to 2018 status, that kind of grouping of the PG era or whatever you want to call it. That was kind of the time frame where I dropped off, and now I watch WWE and AEW currently right now as a fan. I watch both of them.
Oh, nice, man. And yeah, I see like there's a similarity pattern between you and Ryan, falling off at kind of the same time, picking back up around about the same time, and also big fans of AEW as well.
Yeah.
Rashad, just to check, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right, yeah, because now I was having some technical difficulties, man. The devil busy, but if you rebuke him, he will flee. At least that's what they tell me. What's good, y'all? Fellow WWE fans, what's happening?
Yeah, Rashad, well, thanks for joining, man. We're just seeing your links down below in the description box, and we're literally just starting the stream. We're going to be talking full spoilers, and we're also going to talk about our history with wrestling as well.
Okay.
So we'll get to you in a second, but Jason, I'm going to fire it over to you this time. So what's your experience been like with wrestling?
Yeah, I really got onto it around 97. I remember, I think I was kind of, I didn't really watch it, but I was kind of aware of it in the 90s. I was kind of like I was, it's funny, I think I was a Hulkamania fan, even though I didn't watch a lot of it. Just Hulk Hogan was everywhere, and I remember watching like his movies, and I used to watch his TV show. He had a TV show like the Thunder or something. I can't remember.
Thunder in Paradise.
Paradise, that's it. But yeah, I was like, so I was all about Hulk Hogan. It feels like, and so then around 97, I kind of really started getting into watching it every week because you had the Monday Night Wars with Raw on WWF, and then WCW had Nitro, and I'd just go back and forth on Mondays. That Monday was wrestling night. Like that's all I watched was wrestling shows. I'd go back and forth. Who's wrestling this show? Who's wrestling that show? And and I had favorites from both shows. I'd watch both of them, and that's what I was that was really my obsession period of it. And all the way to high school, I never missed an episode probably, or I was just constantly watching. I would say I probably didn't watch as much when I got into college, I think, because I was off in the dorms and I wasn't able to watch it as much. And it might have been before we had internet and everything, but it was maybe before a lot of, not like today where it's so easy to catch up. There's no YouTube. Today I can catch up on stuff, but back in the day, it's like if you didn't see it, you probably wouldn't catch it, So I feel like I did miss a couple of years in there, but then I soonly got back into it and been pretty much watching. I don't watch the show so much as I keep track, though. I listen to podcasts. I watch YouTube videos. And so I keep up on what's going on, and I see matches here and there. And so I'm still kind of into what's going on. And I read a lot of biographies. I love reading wrestler biographies. I've read quite a bit of those. I watch quite a bit of documentaries. I do love the whole history of it. Mostly when Hulk Hogan comes in. To me, wrestling is kind of boring until Hulk Hogan kind of comes on the scene and we got WrestleMania. Basically, when Vince McMahon takes over, to me, that's when wrestling really got kind of interesting, looking at the history of wrestling, and which this documentary, of course, does a good job of anyway. So to me, like the 80s on, to me, I really enjoy wrestling.
Nice, Jason. Yeah, and it's great to hear your history about like in the 97 and then kind of going into like now where you might have to watch the recap and highlights. And it's always one of those I remember, like especially 97, kind of around that era. It's like you're saying, Jason, if you missed it, you'd have to record it on the VHS, and watch it on play back down the line. At least I did a lot as a kid. And Rashad, how about yourself, man? So what was your experience like growing up with wrestling? And are you the same as Jason? You got on board when Hulk Mania started to go wild on the fans? Or
I think most people in our generation were, whether you want to admit it or not, you were a Hulkamaniac if you came up in that time. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm the elder here, I go back further than all of y'all, right? So I could write a book about how far back I go, man. But it started with a little movie called Rocky III. And Thunder Lips, the Ultimate Male, against Rocky Balboa, and then Clubber Lang. So I was a big fan of that movie still to this day, and happened to be in the video store one day with my pops, and I see a VHS box cover that said WrestleMania, and it had a Hulk Hogan and Mr. T on the cover. And I said, I thought it was like an extension of Rocky. I said, Dad, let's get that. So that was like my first exposure to wrestling, actually watching that first WrestleMania and Hulk Hogan. And so, yeah, I was a Hulkamaniac. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. You know, the whole and what you gonna do, brother? Ooh, you know, I was ripping the shirt, all that, man. I was big time into Hulk Hogan, and I don't know if any of y'all did this. Jason, you probably did this when you're play fighting with your cousins or your brothers, right? And y'all play wrestling, and then remember how Hulk Hogan used to no sell, right? So you hear him, it's like right hand, another right hand, leg drop, and all that. You know, did all that. Yeah. So the 80s, it was all about Hulk Hogan. It was all about WrestleMania. And then, of course, Ultimate Warrior came into the fold. And then Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage, you know what I mean? And then I stopped watching wrestling after 92 because I was a teenager at the time. And I'm like, I kind of grew out of wrestling. And by that time, wrestling was getting like real cartoony. And the documentary kind of covers that, how it really got to the whole gimmick thing. You know what I mean? And then I got back into it because of a little wrestler. You probably heard of him. His name is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know if you guys heard of him or not, but you know what I mean? Yeah, so he comes to the picture. And I start watching it again, Attitude Era. And then guess what? Stone Cold leaves. The Rock leaves. And I'm like, I checked out again for like 20 years. And you know what brought me back? A little pretty
Roman Reigns and the feud, right?
No, Rhea Ripley brought me back.
Oh, Rhea.
Rhea. I watched that last WrestleMania, and she was the first match, and I said, who is this? She's a freaking rock star, man. Beautiful, athletic, brutal, violent. I'm like, yo, I'm in, and I got hooked all over again. So I'm a new wrestling fan again, me and my boy here. But WWE needs to get it together. I just want to plug this in real quick, Mike. They need to get it together because I don't have USA Network, so we would watch Raw on the replay on Hulu, and Hulu is now taking that away from us. And they took away SmackDown. So I can't watch either of them.
Oh, man.
That sucks. Yeah, Jason, remember back in the day, that shit came on network television. Every Saturday and Sunday after the Saturday morning cartoons, you can watch wrestling. Now,
yeah, everybody's going to streaming now because they're going to Netflix by December. Raw is going to be fully on Netflix, and AEW is going to HBO Max. You could even watch AEW All Access on HBO Max right now.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that yesterday. Yeah. So yeah, that's my little condensed history on wrestling. So I'm a lifelong fan, but there were like certain eras I would check out, and then a certain era would bring me back. So the Hogan era, the Attitude era, and I guess this is the Triple H era, all brought me back into it. Yeah,
nice, and honestly, it's great to hear about your experience, Rashad, because I know, of course, Rocky 3, your favorite movie. We've got Nick saying Rocky 3 is great as well.
Nice.
Yeah, Rashad's favorite movie.
Sir.
And it goes in the documentary. Of course, we're going to be separating Hulk Hogan from Curry, right? Two different individuals, right there.
Right.
But yeah, I think we've all at some point or another. It sounds like we've had a part in time where we've loved wrestling. We've been watching it every week. We've then fallen out of love of it, or it's maybe not been as cool as it once was, and then it's kind of slowly brought us back to the point where we're all watching it currently as well, which is great. So we all know what's going on at the moment. A lot of the time I usually tend to watch Raw and SmackDown highlights on YouTube and watch them that way and keep up, and then watch the pay-per-views, on the network at the moment.
Nice.
But yeah, let's dive into the documentary itself. So Mr. McMahon, 6 episodes. Just to confirm, have we all seen all 6 episodes?
Yes, season year.
Awesome. Because they come full spoilers, so if you haven't, get out of here and come back.
One of us is like, what?
Oh, hold on. Before we go further, David Rosk is saying Vince McMahon documentary season 2 coming on Netflix next year.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
I heard Vince McMahon's trying to get his own counterpiece going. Apparently, he's talking to the people that did some of the WWE documentaries for A&E, and he's trying to do his own piece. That's what I heard.
He tried to buy the rights back as well for this because after his early screening thing, he wasn't too happy.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question I want to throw out to you guys on this subject. So we've all watched the 6 episodes. A lot of us have history of wrestling going back all when to current date. And Rashad summed it up perfectly in your review separately on Rashad when you were like, look, maybe for like more newcomers, this is a perfect documentary to learn about the history, also kind of get into the current. I'm going to throw it open to you guys. Do any of you guys think there's anything really damaging here to Vince McMahon that's not already public knowledge?
I don't think damaging, but the last episode really does get into the new stuff that's been kind of coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Rashad would have said in his review, it's very much for newcomers who are just learning about wrestling. It's very much more the history of WWE more than Vince McMahon, I think, really. So I think a season 2 or an extension definitely is needed to hopefully go more into the new lawsuits and all that sort of stuff that is coming out. And it could have maybe went more in depth of his life's actual story to be more about Vince with his relationship with his father, past lawsuits, but it very much focused on the history of WWE. I felt more so than the man himself.
Yes.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, all the information that came out with that rumor, Ryan, you were saying about Vince McMahon by the documentary, I heard that as well. Everything that was displayed here, I feel like it's already public knowledge in news articles, newspapers, online social media. So there wasn't anything that, if he bought this and it wasn't shown, it wouldn't be anything that people didn't know about or could go on like the network and go on individual episodes of Raw and find out these terms that they used back then. And well, there was a racial element in here as well. Used at one point. I'm not going to touch on what that was, but it wasn't. Of course, when you look back now, you're like, "Wow, how did they do that?" You know, because my partner Emma never knew about that. She's like, "Wow, they did that."
Oh yeah,
wow.
they would go there.
They did some crazy stuff.
They would go there back in the day.
Right, but if you went on the network now and found that particular episode of Raw, it'd probably still be on there because like the wrestler that they don't mention. I'm surprised they brought him up in this documentary. We'll touch on that a little bit. Even if you go on particular Raw or WrestleMania's Royal Rumble, he is there.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, it's kind of hard to edit out some of that stuff, especially when they've been in the business that long and stuff like that. Like I heard Vince McMahon, like they were trying to edit him out of like the game, like or something like that, or like footage where he would be blocked out in like the video game, and it's like it's going to be really hard for them to kind of separate themselves because, like I said, Vince McMahon for so many years has basically been WWE. Like wrestling, it's taken over his life. I think my main takeaway from the documentary itself is that this documentary just basically makes him look like a man. He's just a dude. He's a dude who does really crappy things. He's a dude who has really good ideas. And like, that's literally it. He is just a man. He's no different than like you, me, or Jason, or anybody else. He's just some guy. That's how I kind of felt after watching this documentary.
I don't know. I would disagree with that, fam. I would say that watching this documentary, even though I didn't learn anything new, but it did give me a perspective of Vince. Like, yeah, he's not a normal dude. This guy is an anomaly. He's a lot of damn things. And he's like, it's the history of the WWE, but it is his life because that's all he is. Like, even when it comes down to his family, which they touch on later on, it's like something as precious as seeing your daughter get married and walking your daughter down the aisle. He wanted to make that a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like Vince had a Michael Jackson complex where he couldn't separate reality from fiction. You know what I'm saying? His whole mindset was WWE, sports entertainment. My daughter's getting married. Okay, let's make a storyline out of it. You know what I'm saying? Me and my wife just argued. Okay, let's make a storyline out of it. It's like you never knew who Vince really was as opposed to Mr. McMahon. And it's funny because he would always say, well, we're two different people. I'm nothing like the Mr. McMahon character. Bullshit.
He contradicts himself, yeah.
Yeah, everybody said, no, Vince and even Shawn Michaels, they're the same person,
Oh, yeah.
Vince is not a regular dude. I mean, he probably has regular dude moments, but even something simple as me and Vince going to have a beer, he'll say, you know what, let's make a storyline out of this. Black man and billionaire have a beer at a bar. That'll be great for Raw. It's just he was 100% business. That's all he was.
Yeah.
Business all the time.
Just to fill in on what Rashad was saying about storylines. Did anybody catch? He wanted to do a story on him impregnating Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that when it happened live. I remember when that really was trying to go down. Yeah.
That was disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like really reluctant to talk about it, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I just wanted to do the storyline where I'm pregnant, my daughter, just like speaking openly about it."
Yeah, they're
But
asking
that's what kind of sucked is like even in the documentary itself, he kind of like said he contradicted himself. He basically lied in episode 1 and then like called himself on the lie in episode 5, and it's like it didn't make any sense. So yeah, that's why I'm like he's kind of like you take everything he says with a grain of salt because you just don't know if he's performing or if he's just being a stupid billionaire.
Being Mr. McMahon or he's being Vince. You know, even when he contradicted himself talking about how in the beginning how he went to the other territories and recruited, pretty much poached all the territories, right? But then when Ted Turner did it to him, oh well, you know, he was trying to hurt me, you know, and it was malicious. And but Vince, didn't you do that?
You do that.
Well, it was competing. I was competing.
Yeah.
It was competition.
That's what he said. Yeah, he used a different word. It's like
so it's not the same thing. It may sound contradictory, but no, it was competition that they tried to hurt me. What?
So I don't know about you guys in this, so I want to kind of get your opinion on this because when I finished watching this with Emma, and we'll catch up with some comments in a second because we've got quite a few, but multiple times throughout this documentary, Vince McMahon himself kept saying, "No one knows the real Vince McMahon," but I feel like he never took a moment to describe the real him. He kept going back to, "Oh, Mr. McMahon's this character, or this is like an elevated version of myself, or you know, me on like 1,000% drugs and all that kind of stuff," right? But he never explains who he actually is. I guess the most we get from him is like his childhood, how he was brought up. We actually learned a little bit about him.
Yeah.
But outside that, Rashad, you were right. It was just business, and that storyline with the. I was saying this to Emma, like, you know, the story about him trying to impregnate his daughter. I guess at a point, surely you must think this is not right, you know, or how he would be like Linda McMahon was drugged and then he was make out with Trish Stratus in front of her.
That was mad. That was so funny.
Yeah. I know, and then like he says, "Oh, Linda was cool with it. She was cool with it." We only saw like her like twice in this entire documentary, dude.
Yeah, I would love to have known if, because like we're going to touch on this as well. Like, there's a lot of touch on here, but I also feel like they've got the wrong people to interview in this documentary. So, for example, they brought in John Cena, who still has a good relationship with Vince McMahon outside of WWE, so he's not going to speak bad about him whatsoever. You've got Triple H, who is his son-in-law, who's got WWE right now, so he's not going to say anything bad about Vince McMahon. You got Shawn Michaels, same thing. The Undertaker, still a big relationship with Vince McMahon. Right. I guess the only ones was like maybe Tony Atlas spoke out about Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I think he was the most honest one. Like when I felt somebody talking, Tony Atlas was the one that just right away he would answer the question. He didn't think about it. He didn't like fester or like the lie. He was just like real quick. He would say whatever.
He grabbed my pecker. Grabbed your what? He grabbed my pecker. My pecker. Your pecker. Yeah, grab my pecker. Yeah, Patterson, grab my pecker.
I mean, even like even Jimmy Hart, he literally says like, you know, I've got to be careful. I don't know what they want to get out there. So it's like, kind of what's the point here if we're not actually getting into some of these stories? Like, Paul Heyman, I really enjoyed, and
Paul Heyman. Now, Paul Heyman kept it a buck too. Paul
Heyman was good too. Yeah,
I think Paul Heyman was the one that really gave the most like vivid description of Vince when he would talk about him. Like what do you say, Mike? When he was like, the WWE is a result. Like Vince's persona is a result of the 12 years growing up, how he was tortured as a kid. So now it's like he built this thing for himself where I'm in total control. And I can never go back to that again where I wasn't in control. So that's why he's such a control freak because of what he went through. So, yeah, I think Paul Heyman summed him up like very poetically, man. Like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, did you when he mentioned the story with the knife with Shane McMahon? What that was class. That he was such a good storyteller.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about when he talked about stabbing him in the heart with the take the business? Yeah, that was gangster.
Yeah.
You can see
Paul was good.
He liked the heel wrestlers more. He kind of, I don't know, even as a kid, that's like the heel wrestlers were like where he identified with or something. I don't know.
Right.
Greatest heel in the, I don't know. So that's kind of interesting.
I'm very hesitant to say I've got a lot to relate with Vince, but that's one of them. I love heel characters. If I was a wrestler, I would be a heel. Like, I just think it'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's just got you, Ryan. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I think if I was in wrestling, I'd love to be like a general manager, you know,
Nice.
or a manager or something, you know. I'm not built to be a wrestler. I couldn't do it, you know.
Yeah.
I would be like a Dominic Mysterio. I'd get beaten every week, you know. I'd be the jobber out there every week. Nah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Vince. Vince always wanted to be a wrestler. Vince wanted his pops kept him from like being a wrestler for years. That's why now, like after 50 years old, now he's taking all these bumps and, you know, wrestling with Austin and everybody. That's fulfilling the childhood thing that he always wanted to do, was to be a performer.
Yeah, it is. It's true. And you could tell that with multiple storylines he did where he wrestled a lot of matches as well. So we'll dive into a couple of quick comments. We've got Jimmy, Scottish Geek Guy, saying, howdy, hey, Jimmy, what's going on? Got the legend Perez in the house saying, hey, fellas. Enjoy getting tattooed, man. Thanks for tuning in. Jimmy's adding, watched every episode. Nothing new covered until the last episode. Basically saying skip the last episode. Yeah, for sure. Emma, my partner, saying Vince thrown up. That's all I have to say.
Purple lips.
One creepy guy. AP, hey AP, what's going on? Huge wrestling fan. Documentary didn't really cover anything new. Yeah. Non-wrestling fans learn about WWE. Yeah. Okay, so right, let's get into this. So Vince McMahon, of course, 6 episode, covers all the way from when he gets the business all the way up until present day. Rashad, I want to touch on something that you mentioned in your review, actually. So you mentioned in your singular review about, well, the term you use, brothers, not really getting much of a shine in WWE. And I was saying to Emma today, I was, think about it. Even to this present day, there's more representation, but not a lot, right? Like I think the last champion of color was, I think, Trick Williams has just won the NXT title at this current stream. But yeah, so what's your feelings on that? Do you think that they've got more representation nowadays compared to when? And how?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Now, black wrestlers are more, how can I say it, not so much sophisticated, but more believable. Because growing up, and as a kid, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even, I was just being entertained. But I grew up on wrestlers like Coco Beware, Bad News Brown, Junkyard Dog, Butch Reed, like stereotypical black characters that I'm pretty sure, like, because the whole WWE, think about it, it's all Vince's creation. So this is a world that exists in the mind of Vince McMahon. So every wrestler that you see is a figment of his imagination of what he thinks that person, that ethnicity is supposed to be. So if you look at like Asian wrestlers at the time, they fell into all the Asian stereotypes. You saw like the Mexican wrestlers or like any ethnicity, it was always very stereotypical. And, so, okay, I'll tell you this. If you never seen a black person before, right, and you come to the States and you watch wrestling for the first time in the 80s, the first black person you ever see is Kamala, all right? There's a match between Kamala and Big John Studd. That's the first black person you see. You know who Kamala is, right? The Ugandan giant used to slap his belly, ooga booga.
Yeah.
That's a black person. Coco Beware with the Jerry curl, with the bird, doing the bird shit, And every time he cut a promo, it's like he was preaching. Like, why do you have to be so loud? Like, we don't act like that, Oh, let me tell you something, Daddy. When I get to the ring, after I eat my grits and my greens, baby, I'm gonna come out there and I'm gonna do our thing. Woo! That's not a good representation, So now it's more balanced. Now it's more believable. It's not as embarrassing. And even Tony Atlas, like, I don't know, Jason, I don't know if you remember this, but Tony Atlas disappeared in the mid-'80s because he became a jobber after a while. And he disappeared, and then Vince brought him back in like 91, 92 as an African character named Saba Simba.
Yeah,
I remember that.
You remember that, right? He had like the shield and shit. He would do the little African dance and had and I'm like, brother, why? So with that being said, not to ramble on, Mike. Yeah, Vince was not too fond of the brothers. So in the documentary where they glossed over real quick, they said, well, we had The Rock, he was the first, black champion. Technically, yes, but The Rock, I don't want to downplay the fact that he's black too, but The Rock looks more Samoan than he does black. All right. And The Rock is like a once in a lifetime talent that, slipped through the cracks, because typically Vince would have took The Rock and exploited him. Like, he almost exploited him with the Rocky Maivia gimmick. That was Vince McMahon. The Rock was Dwayne Johnson's creation. If it wasn't for that, Vince would have dumped him on the sidewalk. So he says, well, we had a black champion. Like, all I see is green. I don't see color. I just see, if you draw money. Bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah. I give you another quick example, y'all. All right, Ron Simmons, WCW's first black champion, right?
Yeah.
Why, when he came to WWE, all right, in WCW, he was himself. He was Ron Simmons, and he got over. The fans loved him. He comes over to WWE. They put a gladiator helmet on him. They give him this stupid name, Farouk. And then they put him with this black, military group, the Nation of Domination. I'm like, he could get over just being Ron Simmons. Why do you have to make him a super, blaxploitation character and think that's what, we want to see? So, yeah, I love Vince, man, but Vince wasn't too fond of the brothers. I say all that.
But no, that's why I wanted to get your perspective on it, Rashad, because we can certainly comment about it, but from your own personal standpoint, I wanted to hear more like your own personal opinion. And I think you make a great point with Farouk. Of course, Nation Domination's he was first known for, and then of course found major kind of fame with the APA.
Right.
And then now he's just like, damn.
Yeah.
So and I just think it's an interesting way, like you went, like the representation's definitely improved tenfold, I guess, since then. But I still think there should be more, personally, or like pushing more talent to the main event level picture,
Right, and not just black people either. Like, like for example, I thought Yokozuna was Japanese. Like his character was supposed to be Japanese, and come to find out he's part of the Fatu family. You know what I'm saying? He's Samoan. And I'm like, damn, how come they just couldn't get a real Japanese, that's like Yellowface almost, you know what I mean? Remember Ricky the Dragon Steamboat? They marketed him as Asian, and Ricky Steamboat's from Hawaii. He's Polynesian.
I remember that. Yeah.
So it's not just black people, bro. Like a lot of the ethnicities, they really, Vince really stereotyped, you know what I'm saying? But because it was entertaining, as kids, we turned a blind eye. But as an adult, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember when Piper
did half blackface. Yeah. He would do anything to get heat. Roddy Piper would do anything to get heat. He was one of those heels for sure.
Rest in peace, Piper, man. But yeah, that blackface thing, I'm like, oh, that can never pass now. But at the time, I didn't understand. I'm like, why is half of his body black?
Yeah, and I'd say like when they brought that up, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, they went there, Well, I'm going to take around each of you guys. So, Norin, I'm going to start with you first. So, in this documentary, as we mentioned before, so they have like John Cena, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, etc. Who is the former WWE wrestler you would have liked to have seen in this documentary speak maybe negatively on their experience with the WWE?
Oh, that's a good one, huh? That's a really good one. To be honest, I would right now, if AEW would have let him, I would like Bryan Danielson to talk, because I know Bryan would tell you exactly how it is. That's one guy that I trust unequivocally. Bryan Danielson, I think, is one wrestler that he would have told you exactly how it was, because we knew when he was in WWE, he was nothing. Vince didn't want him to be anything. We as fans made Bryan Danielson who he is today because of the Yes movement and because we wanted him to be champion so bad. So it's really cool that he would have been perfect, I think, because a lot of the guys in here, like you said, they're either with WWE right now, they're either legends in the game, so they like have history with Vince and stuff like that. Like Undertaker said he would take a bullet for Vince. That kind of took me by surprise a little bit, because I was like, are you serious? Like, but he has history with Vince. He's been around him for years. That's a father figure to him. Bruce Pritchard is another person that didn't come off too great when you watch this documentary either. He comes off like he's just he's just down there, Vince McMahon's butt buddy. That's basically what he came off as.
Yeah.
So But yeah, I think Bryan Danielson would have been the perfect wrestler because, like, if AEW would have let him and he would have came by, he would have told you exactly how it was over there.
And I think that's an interesting one with Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, as he was in WWE.
Yeah,
with his history, and I've met him in person one time as well, and he was a really great guy.
nice.
So I think he would have been like a really good person to speak out on. Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick.
Thank you.
Jason, how about yourself? Who would you have liked to have seen featured here?
Well, yeah, I thought, yeah, it's good. I'm glad you asked that question. The guy I thought was missing was Chris Jericho, to be honest. I would love to hear him.
Good one.
I read his books. His books are very good. He's really well opinionated on the business, and he's been around for a little while. I mean, since the 90s with WCW, and then went to WWF/E, and made a star there. And then, of course, now like AEW. And so he's been around. I mean, he's been in Japan and Mexico. I mean, he's been around everywhere. And he's got such a great mind, I think, for wrestling. I would have loved to hear his opinion. And I think he had a good relationship with McMahon for the most part. Of course, he's with AEW. I don't know if they had a falling out when he went to AEW. That'd be interesting to hear. But yeah, that's the one guy I wish was on there.
That's a good pick. I didn't think about Jericho. Hey, that's a good pick.
Yeah, I think Jericho would be an interesting one. I don't know if maybe he would be controversial because he's had his own allegations against him not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Really? Yeah. I'll not touch on too much on that because it's a different story for a different matter, you know.
Allegedly, yeah, we're like allegedly.
Yeah.
I like what he says about Chris Benoit because he was good friends with him, and he has a really good.
Yeah, that's true.
When they talk about him, I wish Chris Jericho was there because he has a lot of good opinions on what happened there. But yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit as well because I found it interesting that they mentioned that as well. I didn't expect them to, so I kind of like that they did. I'll be honest. Rashad, how about yourself? Who would you have liked to have seen be speaking here?
Well, I'm surprised Savage didn't come up more. I was expecting more of Randy Savage because in the 80s, you know, Hulk Hogan was number 1 and Savage was number 2. You know, Savage was always like kind of like Rock and Austin. You know, it was Hogan and Savage. So for whatever reason, like you've seen like little archive footage of him, but yeah, I wish they would have went more into Randy Savage.
Yeah, I mean they didn't show a lot of them for sure. Yeah, but who would you have liked to have seen here, Rashad? Like speak about Vince or WWE?
Oh, speak about okay. As far as speaking on the documentary, okay, sorry.
No, you're all good.
Damn, because a lot of the legends are damn dead.
Yeah,
that's a good question. Probably Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
solid.
Mark Henry. Yeah.
Sexual chocolate.
Mark Henry, he's another one. Like he's not really biased. Like I think he thinks fondly of Vince, but at the same time, if you ask him a question, I think he'll be totally 100 with you. You know, like he doesn't shy away from anything. So I think Mark Henry would have been good to interview here.
I would have liked to have heard his perspective from things. I know he's now back with WWE, I think, on a Legends contract or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think he left AEW, so it's probably why he wasn't here. But I think he would have been an interesting one because, yeah, you know, obviously Sexual Chocolate then eventually pushed him towards the world title picture.
Right.
And that famous retirement speech, which we've all probably seen
as
well. Ryan, how about you? Who would you like to have seen be here?
I think, to be honest, I would like to have seen more women talk about. I think the only one I've really seen was Trish Stratus, and I'm really quite surprised. She was like quite positive on Vince, really, to be honest. I'm surely there's got to be some weird stuff that she's interacted because she was one of the men loved her, so I'm pretty sure Vince would have as well in ways that.
Oh yeah, she was probably
went into. But yeah, maybe like a leader or something like that. But yeah, maybe just again another woman's perspective that's not so positive because especially when they were talking about the Attitude Era with like the whole bra and panties and all that sort of stuff. There's got to be some weird stuff in the back that probably happened. And
yeah, Deborah would have been good.
Yeah.
I mean,
some other woman wrestler, I think.
Speaking on the women wrestler, I mean, you make a great point, Ryan. Like, because Trish Stratus is still working with WWE nowadays. She only came back like last year, wrestled some matches. I think what you said there, Jason, Deborah would have been a good shout. Maybe even maybe even Sable from wherever she is
Sable.
right now.
Yeah.
You know.
That would be
But
crazy.
of course she's married to Brock Lesnar. It's just,
yeah.
I know she's no longer with her, but China. I know she's had some controversy, I think, as well. But back in the day, I would have heard I've heard some stories from back then as well, Triple H and that.
Yeah, because even when she
about China lately.
What's up?
Oh, no, I've been hearing a lot of I've been watching a lot of shoot videos, and lately people been dissing the hell out of China, like saying she was a terrible worker and she was known for hurting people and nobody wanted to work with her. I think that's what I saw was Jericho. Yeah, Jericho really slammed her, and he was like, "Nah, I hated working with China. Like, rest in peace, but she was the worst." I said, "Damn."
It's kind of crazy how you hear that stuff. Yeah, when people are like honest and they shoot on other people, you're like,
right.
Yeah.
Wasn't like Wendy Richter? Was she on there? Wendy Richter? She was interviewed.
Wendy Richter. They talked about her. Did they interview her?
Oh yeah, she was on there briefly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They talked about her.
She didn't say much though, did she?
Like when they were mentioning the screw job a little bit, she was like the first screw job. That was quite interesting. I didn't know that as well.
I didn't know that either.
Nah, like some of the older stuff like that, I had no clue about at all. Or like the original lawsuit when Vince was wearing a neck brace as well. I didn't know personally about that either.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember the Ring Boy scandal. I remember the Ring Boy thing, and they brought that up. I remember that.
I think Bret Hart was another one that kept doing 100 too, man. I love Bret. Like people get mad at Bret saying he's a hater, but I don't know. Bret's like that uncle that gets drunk and just doesn't care what comes out of his mouth. Now I love Bret Hart.
And you actually might get into a real fight with him.
Because I love when Vince was like, Bret, he had one shot and he took it, and Bret was like, nah, man, that's not what happened. Nah, that's bullshit. Like we locked up. It was like a wrestling fight, and everybody was jumping in on me, and I got one good uppercut in on him and knocked him out.
That black guy looks solid too. That picture of the black guy that you saw when you saw him on the ground.
And I felt so sorry for Bret because I knew of the screw job, but I didn't watch wrestling at that time when that happened. And I've heard bits and pieces throughout the years, but like it's great that they dived into it here. And you said, Rashad, like he just gave an honest opinion, whereas Vince was like, "Oh yeah, we had to do this for business," and Bret was like, "Well, no, you promised me a 20-year contract. You need the championship, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I can't afford that anymore. Then you got to take it away, you know?"
Right. Well, at the time, many fans we thought it was a work. We didn't know that was actually happening. We thought, oh, this is part of the show. This is part of the this is a work, and like no, this actually happened. Like, oh shit, he actually really did screw Bret.
Yeah, big time.
He seems very like professional though as well, Bret. Like it's not just like a petty thing with him. Like even when they go into Owen Hart's death and he like files a lawsuit against WWE, and he's like, "Look, it was an accident. It's not personal with Vince. It's very like professional." So kind of forgave Vince once the lawsuit came back that there was no criminality on that. Yeah.
I tell you who I would have liked to have heard of in this documentary. I think would have been an interesting one. Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Because he was huge and like especially towards like the 2008-2009 when he was wrapping up WWE, when he was feuding with The Undertaker, that kind of famous 3-match feud or so forth that went on. And of course working with Shane with that spot with King of the Ring where the glass doesn't break.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite matches of all time. That's one of the greatest matches of all time.
Yeah, fantastic match, so memorable. But like, we've got to hear Shane's perspective from that match. But it would have been great to hear like Kurt and like what made him fall out with Vince. And I think he would have been the person who would be honest about Vince at that time, and what went on behind the scenes of him leaving the WWE and eventually going to TNA as well. But I guess we've got some relationship with WWE still, so he probably wouldn't speak out on it.
I would have loved to have Kurt Angle on just to tell the story about when Vince tried to fight him in on the airplane, and they actually had like a shoot match. And then Undertaker came and choked out Kurt Angle because he thought he was beating Vince up.
Kurt even had a story where he got into a real shoot fight with Brock, and he apparently beat Brock too.
Yeah. See stories like that. Like I feel like that's what this documentary was missing. Like behind the scenes stories that we don't know. Like those are my favorites. Like those shoot stories. You know what I mean? And we didn't get a whole lot of that here, except for Pat Patterson grabbing Tony Atlas's pecker. That's it.
I'm really surprised. Kurt actually could have fit in perfectly here when they were talking about Chris Benoit, because I heard him talking about a story that possibly some of the reason he had left is because of all the heavy painkiller situation, the heavy schedule, and all that, which caused arguably the situation with Chris Benoit, and that's partly why he left, because it just wasn't changing. And
and like it had nothing to do with what's it called, the brain thing,
CTE.
And it's like I'm sure it did. I'm sure that didn't help all the brain damage he probably got through wrestling. You know.
Oh yeah, it's no joke. Yeah, when you get hit that hard that many times, and like the headbutt thing was part of his thing. Yeah. And I think Chris Benoit even has an interview, I think, where he talks about another wrestler told him not to make that part of his moveset. He was all, you shouldn't do that because that'll mess you up when you keep doing it. And it's even if just the tension of your neck just hitting over and over and over too. And but he kept it part of his moveset. We know what happened.
I'm a big Stone Cold guy, but when he says in the documentary, I'm just not a CT guy, so it doesn't exist. It's like,
I was like the Owen Hart pile driver, pretty much put him out of wrestling.
He literally says, I don't remember many concussions in my wrestling career. It's like, well, yeah, there might be a reason for that. You might have had
you don't remember when they happened.
I mean, especially when we used to watch wrestling back when, like every week after week, someone would be getting hit with a chair shot to the head.
Yeah.
And then there would be a blade job to go on top of that as well.
Right.
It was every week. It was every week without fail. You get someone a brutal chair shot to their head.
Yeah. Well, remember the I Quit match with Mick Foley and Rock, where Rock kept hitting him over and over with the chair, and then they showed backstage how he had a big gash in his head and he was like busted wide open. There's no way you take that many chair shots and don't get concussed. That's impossible. So I love Stone Cold, man, but he was out of pocket for that one, bro.
I think he realized after as well, because he was like, did I just say that?
He's had a lot of surgeries though. He'll chalk it up to all his neck surgeries and knee surgeries.
But again, I think it's because he's part of WWE, or he has been the last few years. He's still got that relationship. So he's not going to go in there and be like, yeah, I got heavily concussed all those years. And I definitely believe in the CTEs. You're right. He's going to be like, yeah, that didn't happen to me. Yeah.
Because clearly something was wrong with Benoit, because like he didn't have a history of violence and acting that way. You know what I mean? And steroids, like, you always hear the term roid rage, but roid rage don't make you fucking spaz out like that where you're, you just hack people. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's physical evidence that shows that he did have CTE. So I'm on the side of, I think CTE played a big role in why Chris Benoit did what he did, you know what I'm saying? And not giving him a pass is saying that, because I know it's that's a touchy subject when you say, well, he was a good person. He doesn't deserve the hate that he gets, but I'm just saying that played a role. And I think what happened, that's just my personal opinion.
I do too. There's no excuse on what he did. I don't think anyone's ever going to excuse what he actually did. But that, like Norin was saying, that headbutt every week on Raw, SmackDown, plus the live event shows as well, ring practice backstage or in their performance center at the time, whatever they had as well. And it's not as if like they had any cushioning when he did that headbutt either, or like the wrestler put the hand up and the line flat. You'd be hitting like pure shoulder bone, like facing to the mat, and the mats weren't like what they are now, more protected. But I'm glad that they brought him up in this, though. I would have liked Vince to have talked about him a little bit more, though, because I feel like Vince was very vague. He didn't really touch on it at all.
Yeah, they kind of talked about how,
especially as that's the only time in wrestling history he's ever stopped a wrestling event. Yeah, was for that, like not even Owen's death. He continued on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
that still pisses me off to this day. The whole Owen Hart thing, and you see the footage where they're actually in the ring wrestling. You see the blood on the mat, and they're reacting to the blood on the mat like, holy shit, that's Owen's blood. Like, I mean, I get it from a business standpoint. Yes, the show must go on, but like, a man died. Yeah. His blood is in the ring. Stop. Like, listen, there's gonna be another show. There's gonna be money to be made tomorrow, you know. But right now, in this moment, let's acknowledge the fact that we lost a man, and you know,
he died.
Oh yeah, Owen Hart died
in a ring.
I've been there.
Yeah. So
that's
that I was
like
that I wanted to smack the shit out of Vince. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's the name?
Yeah, for real. That's one thing that was a big thing. I remember even as a kid, like just remember that moment and how potent that was, and even like just how it affected them. You could tell when the wrestlers talk about it, even on the documentary today. Like you could see, like when you watch their faces and stuff, that was a huge monumental moment in wrestling, and didn't happen at a good time for wrestling too, because everybody was all critical of the business at that time too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I get being like business orientated, I do, but when they mention like the deaths of the wrestlers and that famous interview with Vince McMahon when he hides the papers up of the interviewer, when he really tries to get to him a bit, and Vince is just like, oh well, you know, it was up to them to take them drugs, the painkillers, and all that sort of stuff. It's like, mate, they're doing the show for you, working endless days, and I mean, they're doing it because they need to earn money, and that's the only way they could possibly do it. And he's like, yeah, nothing to do with me.
Nah, a load of rubbish. I mean, like, to give you guys an example, I don't know if you guys on YouTube watch Maven Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Maven was from 2001, 2005 in wrestling. He's always like a mid-card guy. But even he did he did a video on YouTube talking about when he did steroids and like the size difference of him compared to before and after, and how much more of a push he got by doing them. But there seemed to be no point in time where Vince was like, don't do that, don't take those, we don't want you to take those, or put in some kind of policy at the time to stop that. It was more just like, yeah, the bigger you guys are, the better, you know?
Yeah, he's a body guy.
He is.
That's the impression I got from Vince at that point.
Yeah.
I'll play down and say, hi all, hey man, hope you're doing well. So Rashad, I'll kick it over to you first. So what was your favorite part about this 6-part miniseries documentary?
Well, you asking me what was my favorite part of the documentary?
Yeah.
It was a lot of them, bro. I liked all of it. I mean, even though I didn't learn anything new, but I think the stuff with Shane really got me. Like the stuff with Shane McMahon, you know, where he was his whole life he just tried to live up to Vince and try to get Vince's approval. You know, like that whole part of it was like so heartfelt, because it's like, damn, trying so hard and Vince not realize he's doing the same thing to Shane what his dad did to him. And, you know, when he finally got that validation, when he did the match with Kurt Angle, and then he got that hug at the end, even though I know that was kind of like for dramatic effect, you know, I'm pretty sure I don't know if that hug was really about that moment, but it's like, it just showed like, damn, I finally got a hug from my dad at 50 something years old. And I got choked up a little bit. I was like, Vince, you asshole. I don't know. I had a newfound appreciation for Shane McMahon because of that. Because Shane, he seems like he's a really good dude, you know. And Vince was like just the impossible father, and it shows how good of a father Shane is also to his boys. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was my favorite part with the whole Shane Vince thing.
Yeah, it was a fantastic moment, and even the part when Shane was going out for his WrestleMania match with Undertaker, and he said to his kids, "Do you want to come on stage?
Hey, you want to come on?"
Right,
that's cool. Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, speaking about like that fatherhood part you mentioned there, Rashad. Yeah, that was great. You know. Because I'm sure, like, if you had a chance, you'd get Mr. Bug. He'd be like, "Come on, you come on stage, son."
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, like Vince was all about it, and of course, you know, you want to pass on to your kids, you know. So it's like it should have been obvious. Shane should have been Vince's successor, but he's such an egomaniac and all about this is my world. Like I did this. This is all about me. Shane, if you want this, you got this right here, right in the heart. And if you don't have the balls to do this, I have to take that into consideration. You know, you're not the man that I think you are. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, like, who are you, man? Like, this, you know what I'm saying? This is not your competitor. This is your son. You shot him out your nuts. Have a little compassion. All right. Well, you know.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I think that story with Paul Heyman was fantastic. Though I didn't expect it, and it was so cutthroat. And I felt like that was the most realism we got out the whole thing into like who Vince is.
Right. Between Paul and Bret, because I thought Bret kept it 100 too, and Tony Atlas.
Yeah, Tony was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to hear from Tony Atlas. Yeah, I didn't expect it, but it was good to hear from him.
Yeah.
Well, I have a quick question too for you move on. What do you think about the whole before we get totally away from the whole concussed thing, where Vince said that when Taker when they broke the streak, and he said that Taker wasn't concussed, he was just in shock about what happened to him at for the streak to be broken, and then Taker was like, "No, like I was concussed, like I don't have any memory, whatever." Oh well, he could have been concussed, I don't know, but I think it's just because he was in shock of the magnitude of the situation. Dude, you were so full of yourself. Vince is he's the ultimate fucking egomaniac, man.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing I was going to say, Rashad, because we are going to touch on that as well, because Ryan was actually at WrestleMania 30 when that happened. But Undertaker's even done a documentary on WWE Network about being upset and crying at that moment and not knowing what was going on. It was broken and how he was mentally and physically at that point.
Right.
So, yeah, what we'll do, we'll finish this question and we'll come back to that, though, Rashad. I'm not going to forget, don't worry. So I'm going to throw it over to Ryan next. So, Ryan, what was your favourite part about the documentary?
Just to mirror Rashad a little bit, it was very much, I found a new appreciation for Shane McMahon. That was a really nice moment when he went backstage with his dad, Vince, and he got that hug after facing The Undertaker. Again, it's with Vince. Was it real? I don't know. You don't know with Vince. I think he is Mr. McMahon. I think personally, that's my thought. But yeah, that was a really nice touch. And yeah, whenever I touched the Attitude Era, it was just so nice to go back. It took us back in time when I was growing up with that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a new appreciation for Shane. And hopefully he's going to be going to AEW and helping them out.
That would be amazing. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
I think that would rock the wrestling world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a picture of him on Twitter the other day. Him and Young Bucks were on the same plane. So we'll see. Him and Matt and Nick Jackson were sitting near each other.
I was iffy because I wasn't too big on him. But again, after watching that scene and just telling his story throughout this, I found a new appreciation. Yeah, I would like to see him and Tony Khan teaming up, going against the big dog.
That would be interesting, to say the least. But now, Ryan, a great pick with Shane and the Attitude Era as well. I think because most of us grew with the Attitude Era or a little bit earlier as well. Jason, how about you? What was your favourite moment of the documentary?
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I love just the history of WrestleMania. I loved going back and talking about Hulkamania and how that rise, and going through they touched on the first 2-3 WrestleManias. I think that was a lot of fun to go back to. I think also, yeah, I agree. What I thought was cool is how they the whole Montreal Screwjob basically gave birth to Mr. McMahon as a villain, which I didn't even think about until I was watching the documentary. I was like, oh, that's how that happened, because it's almost like reality became fantasy. Like in real life, he became the villain, and then in the fantasy world, he became the villain because of that. And looking back at that, he rode that villain so well. I mean, he did some despicable things. Looking back at it, I really questioned the things that he did. But I know he did it because he was trying to get heat, whatever. He was trying to get people to hate him. Boy, he was hateable. That is for sure. Watching that back, and he can say, yeah, and I think you're right. He can say, "Oh, it's just a character," but it's how much of that is a character, and how much is that really him? There's got to be some of him in that character, doing some of that really terrible stuff that he did. That Trish Stratus stuff that still bothers me. Watching what he did to Trish Stratus. Trish is pretty nice about it, but I'm I thought that was horrible what he did.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think he plays it too well, Jason. I think to be a character.
Man, come on, we all know Vince smashed that, man. Come on, there's no doubt in my mind that Vince smashed. Trish Stratus was the object of all of our desires, and Vince was up close and personal with her. There's no way he ain't smashed Trish. Oh,
and then Stacy Keibler had a whole thing with him. I mean, yeah, a lot of this. just happened to be in a storyline with Vince, you know.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've got to write me banging Trish Stratus. Oh my god, no, I can't
I
believe
didn't
it.
want to, but it's funny.
Linda's cool with it. It's okay.
Yeah.
She's drugged right now. She's all good.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, Rashad. And I think back then, Vince probably had his way with every woman he signed.
Mhm.
Like Tori Wilson, Stacey Keebler, Trish, even going back to women before then as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Sable as well at the time.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Before you passed off to Brock, yeah.
Yeah. Sloppy seconds, I guess.
Sloppy seconds, yeah.
If you want to use that term.
Well, actually,
Yeah,
sloppy thirds technically, because Sable used to go with Mark Merrow at first, and I think I think Brock took her from Mark Merrow. I think that's how it went down.
Maybe, I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, well, I heard Mark Merrow talk about it because I guess that they were together, but they weren't together. Like they were kind of separated, and then Brock came into the picture, and Mark Merrow was like, "Look, yeah, Brock came in, but I'm not going to fight that guy." So, hey, it is what it is, man. You know, I mean, what you gonna do? You gonna fight Brock Lesnar over your woman? I ain't doing that.
Nah. Not when you see Brock Lesnar. Nah. Norin, how about you? What was your favorite moment from the documentary?
I'd probably say, I don't know if I have a favorite moment. It's kind of hard because, like I said, after I watched it, I liked it, but then I was very upset with it because after the fact. But then when I thought about this is kind of just introducing the Netflix audience to McMahon, to wrestling and all that stuff. So when you think about it like that, in essence, it's a really good documentary. For people like us, it's not that great because we had known this, we've lived this and been through this like our whole lives. So I would say probably just the production of it, because when you watch it, it is easily digestible. It's easily watchable. It's, you just want to go to the next episode and they keep it going. And even though the scandal stuff didn't get brought up till the end because it kind of happened midway through the production, they still kind of weaved it in there a little bit. So, but yeah, like I had a little bit of frustration after watching it still, but yeah, probably the just easily digestible nature of the whole documentary.
Yeah, and I felt that it was really detailed until maybe episode 6.
Yeah.
Like it took its time to go on the 80s and 90s, then it took its time with the Attitude Era, and it took its time to build all of that, right? And obviously Stone Cold as well. But then the last episode was great, but they rushed it. Because it got to episode 6 and I was like, they haven't even touched on the PG stuff at the moment, and that was a huge part of WWE before the modern times.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to hear from Vince be like, what was that transition like from PG, from going to, sleeping with Trish Stratus to can't say a swear word for kids,
They banned all kinds of stuff. The chair shots. I think you couldn't say strap. You can't say strap anymore. You have to refer to it as a title. You can't say strap or belt or anything like that. It's just kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, you couldn't say belt, because they're associated with belt around the jeans, I think they said.
Well, shout out to everybody that stuck around for the PG era, man. Because by then I checked out. I couldn't handle that stuff, man. Yeah, after the Attitude Era, man, I was gone. So any of y'all that stuck around for the PG era, hey, salute. Yeah, y'all some diehard fans, man. I appreciate y'all.
So I did, and I was telling Emma a lot about this, about the history with John Cena as well. But again, I think it'd be more from him in a documentary talk about how he was booed for years before eventually getting cheered now when he comes on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the PG era, it was just forcing Cena down everyone's throat. It'd be every other month he'd be the champion, or he'd lose the belt. He'd not be in the title picture for a month, and then be back in it and back with the title again. And it was him and Randy Orton every pay-per-view would go against each other normally.
Wow.
The only best part about the PG era was Teddy Long. And it'd be you're going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker. Tonight you're going to be in a tag team match.
Nice.
I would have liked to have seen. Is Teddy Long still alive? I would have liked to have seen him in here. He was class. He was a legend.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I think the problem is with a lot of the legends of Hall of Famers is WWE bring them back in for special appearances now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So a bit like we were saying at the beginning, like those guys aren't going to speak bad about Vince or WWE because they know when WWE need them, they get a quick paycheck for appearing that week. Usually on Raw anniversaries or SmackDown anniversaries, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, they could use some more announcers like JR or Jerry Lawler, maybe, or
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's with AEW. I think that's why they couldn't get him. He's contracted with AEW.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
on
miss that team.
pay-per-views.
Who's the current guy? Is pretty good. I'm forgetting his name.
Michael Cole.
Yeah,
Michael Cole, yeah.
Mhm.
because he's been around for a while. But yeah.
He had a close relationship with Vince as well, and I think he's had some shtick and everything from him. So he would have also been a really good part. But again, can he really say much?
Yeah. No.
They would have just talked about heel Michael Cole and how amazing he was as a heel or some crap.
Man, but I tell you that the GOATs though, man, nothing ever tops. I mean, JR and King come close, but nothing tops Jesse the Body and Gorilla Monsoon. They were the GOAT announcers.
That's your
I
jam.
mean, y'all probably, I don't know if y'all younger, old enough to remember that, man, but yeah, Jesse and Gorilla Monsoon,
Yeah, they were good.
best.
I like Jesse and Vince. I thought were good together.
Yeah, they were good too. Well, because Jesse and Gorilla, like because Gorilla Monsoon was like always for the face and
Yeah.
Jesse was always for the heel, so they always worked well off each other.
Right.
Vince always stayed like neutral, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with like a little bit later on with Vince when he was like stopping, but I mainly grew up with like GR and Jerry the King.
Mhm.
So I think for me they would always be the GOAT ones. But obviously for you guys, grew up a little bit earlier and got to experience that. I didn't get that chance to, you know.
Right.
Only just highlights, but they were great from the highlights, you know.
Oh yeah.
But no, this documentary, definitely agree with you guys with you like the best part of the documentary, like, you know, the Attitude Era, or saying more about Shane McMahon as well, because like we've got Emma here saying, yeah, I really feel for Shane. The hug from his side was real, but didn't seem it from Vince's side.
Yeah.
Hug your damn kids, man.
Facts.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree. We've got David Mantle as well saying, I think nails.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that would have been an interesting one for sure.
Yeah.
Or they should have brought back Kane and just dressed him as Isaac Yankem again.
Yeah, yeah. Kane would have been great to talk about that as well.
Yeah, he was one that missed.
I touched on a little bit on Undertaker's podcast on YouTube. He was recently a guest on then who talked about Isaac Yankem being like the dentist at the time and how stupid that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, let's go back to what Rashad touched on a little bit earlier, and then we're going to touch on some negatives today as well. We're going to talk about WrestleMania 30. One of the biggest things in wrestling history, the Undertaker's streak. For so many years, was it 20 or 21-0 he went before the loss?
21, yeah.
That was 21, yeah.
21
Brock was
years.
the 21 in the 1 in 21 and 1.
Yeah,
Fuck
that's
that.
the one.
I can't stand that guy. I hate Brock Lesnar. Like Brock Lesnar, and for me, Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan, like they hold this pedestal hate. Like they're right up there together. Like I can't stand them so much.
Really? So you're not a Hulkamaniac?
Oh no, you could ask Mike and Jason. I was always an Ultimate Warrior guy. So when I got introduced to wrestling at that time, Hulk was gonna go against Ultimate Warrior. And when Ultimate Warrior took that and he was the double champ, like I had Ultimate Warrior pillowcases, I had Ultimate Warrior sheets. I dressed up like Ultimate Warrior for Halloween. Yeah, so he was my jam. And Hulk and Brock, I think, are equally like my least favorite wrestlers of all time. I think.
I'd say, Norin, you'd have been a happy camper if you would have watched WrestleMania with me, because I actually cried. I was so devastated. I cried when Hogan lost to Warrior. I did. It just because moments before I was actually celebrating, because remember he hit him with the leg drop and everything, and then that's it. Like when Hogan no sells and then he does slam leg drop, it's over with. So when Warrior, I think he kicked out, and then he hit him.
Yeah,
with the
he kicked
splash.
out. I think off of one.
I'm like, what's going on? He's like 1, 2, 3. I'm like, no. They cheated, man. That's why wrestling's fake. They cheated. He shouldn't be Hulk Hogan, man. I was so sad.
Oh yeah, it's a good moment too. It's a big monumental moment in wrestling, and yeah, that was a big one for me.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I was really glad that this touched on, by the way, is the WrestleMania 18 main event with The Rock and Hogan.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
Fantastic match
epic.
and probably one of the best audiences, even present day. One of the best audiences for that main event.
Because then they had to change the match because of that, because the crowd was all for Hogan, so they had like on the fly they had to like change the matchup.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, because wasn't Hogan the heel? Wasn't he like in the Hollywood NWO Hogan kind of phase then? And The Rock was the good guy. But then everyone was cheering for Hogan, so they had to make Rock the heel in the match.
Right.
That was cool.
Oh man. But yeah, let's talk about WrestleMania 30 with The Undertaker. So Ryan, walk us through your experience of being at that event yourself and witnessing that, because we saw it at home, but you saw it in person.
Yeah, it was what an experience. If you ever do get a chance to go to WrestleMania, I couldn't recommend it enough. But the moment that the referee hit 3 on that count, like everybody just was quiet, and you could just hear murmurs like, "What the just happened?" And then everyone kind of just slowly realized what actually had just occurred here. Brock's beat The Undertaker, and it was just insane. It was such an amazing experience. 77,000 people, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, when The Undertaker's talking about how he was concussed like 10 minutes into the match, and Vince McMahon's just got the nerve to say, "Oh, I think he was just traumatized from losing the streak." I'm like, Undertaker, I think you might want to rethink that bullet that you were going to take for him.
For real.
Yeah, what an experience. I would like to hear everyone's perspective from home as well, if it was just as good as what it was being there.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it. Did all of you guys watch it at home as well?
Yeah, I did. I actually ordered that pay-per-view. I did.
Okay, so Rashad, did you see 30 or not?
Well, I saw the highlights of that match. I saw the match, but I didn't watch the whole event. And by then, I wasn't watching wrestling anymore.
Okay, so I'll touch on a little bit, and we'll go around to Norin and Jason as well. So I'm not going to take too long, but I remember like before going in that match, I think Undertaker, that's when he debuted his new haircut, like the shave and pretty much like the only bit in the middle.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this guy looks really ill. I was like, I don't know the full backstory behind that. I don't know if he was going through some health issues or what, but he generally did not look well at that pay-per-view. And of course, I thought there was no way going to beat the streak. You know, they're going to keep this until he retires, you know, and be like the only guy ever to have never lost at WrestleMania. I mean, I guess Michael Cole's never lost at WrestleMania, but that's a different story.
Want to know?
Shit.
Yeah, Rashad, you'll have to research that. Michael Cole WrestleMania.
Really?
Research that.
I know that was a thing.
Probably the first match you'll ever see.
That was, wasn't that the heel match where he dressed in the leotard and he had that little goofy head thing on and everything?
Yeah, before he faced Jerry Lawler. Yeah.
Yep.
Jesus.
But
I don't even know if I want to see that.
But yeah, Ryan, I remember that WrestleMania 30 moment, and I was just gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that. I thought there was going to be something wrong, or like the referee was going to be like, "We're going to have to restart the match" or something, you know.
That's what people thought. Nobody in there, I think, thought Brock Lesnar was going to beat it. There was T-shirts, and I think I've got the T-shirt at home. Like, I just thought it was fun. Like Brock Lesnar, there was the 21 and 1 on the T-shirt, so I did buy it, and it's at my house. No, but I wore it, still not believing that he was going to do it, and I was just like, "Wow."
Damn.
Wow. And I think especially with like all the talent you've got in the wrestling roster, you choose a guy that's already beast status in the wrestling as it is, who doesn't need a push to beat the Undertaker's streak to brag about it, and you choose that guy to beat the Undertaker.
I think everybody was saying Bray Wyatt was the one who really should have done it.
Really?
Bray would have been a good one. Yeah, Bray would have been a good one. Or I thought Triple H would have been great too, because Triple H had that feud with him after he retired Shawn Michaels, and he fought him twice.
Yep.
And I thought Triple H would have been perfect, because it would have been like passing on the mantle kind of thing to like the next legend of the game, you know, and like he's literally called the game. So
True.
Yeah,
Fitting.
or in that like second match, especially when he's got like Shawn Michaels as the referee. Because you think, wow, it took 2 guys to screw the Undertaker out of his streak. But I don't know, Jason, what did you think of that moment of WrestleMania 30?
Yeah, I was quite angry when it happened. I did not want Brock Lesnar to be the one. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Brock Lesnar guy. I feel like he doesn't really earn it. They just keep giving him titles, and he only shows up he only shows up a couple times here and there, and he has the title. It's like, why do we give this guy the title? He doesn't even care to be here. And I don't know. I did not like that they did that. I thought Shawn Michaels should have been the one to take it. I thought that would have been a great wrap to Shawn Michaels' career, to be the one to take the streak. That was my opinion on it. And when they had Brock Lesnar, I was like, really, this guy? Like, of all the people, like
This guy.
I would rather somebody else would have done it than Brock. That was my opinion on it.
Yeah.
That was one of the most shocking moments I've ever had. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I think it was very believable. Like Brock Lesnar was a believable person. Like when he came out in his entrance, I mean, that dude is massive, man. My mouth was just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Just this massive
Vince was
structure of a man
apparently
coming
obsessed
down the
with
ramp.
him.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah,
not that young anymore either, and he still looks impressive. I mean,
Oh, Brock
But,
can
like-
still whoop your ass now. Yeah, Brock can still fuck you up.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's a big dude, and I think Vince was like secretly in love with him.
Well, so this is the thing that I think factors. So, well, before I touch on that, Norin, what did you think of the WrestleMania 30? Especially given your hate of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I thought it was total crap. I kind of knew it going into it that time. Watching it, I was like, it's going to happen. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, me, as a fan of wrestling, when I hate certain characters, they get pushed for certain monumental moments, and it just happens. So when they set that up and the match was going on, I was like, I kind of felt it. I was like, oh, they're going to do this. It's going to happen. And then when it did finally happen, I was just completely upset because I thought Triple H was a better, more deserving person to be the one to end the streak and stuff. Or I would have just been happier if he beat Brock and they never would have done another match. You know what I mean? And they retired Undertaker, but it's whatever, you know. Like I said, Vince was in love with Brock and still to this day, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this is what I want to touch on. I think this is why Brock also won. So we did get a comment earlier saying, let's talk about the Lesnar rumors. Because the whole lawsuit going on right now, for anyone who doesn't know, with Janelle Grant and the Vince McMahon WWE, all that kind of stuff, it's been reported that Lesnar was one who Vince sent photos to of these private photos, let's put it that way. And Lesnar's one of the people who was part of this as well. So if Vince is doing that with Lesnar, so I can imagine what relationship they've had for the past 20 years or more, especially as Vince kind of made Brock Lesnar in a way who he is today.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that maybe factors into it, or do you think maybe not?
It's
I
hard
think
to
it does.
say.
I definitely think he's got a secret love for Brock Lesnar, not just a brotherly way either. I think, hey, Vince is a freaky guy, just in terms of, like, he said at the end there, he's got like 3 brains. One of them speaking to you now, second one's thinking of something completely different, and the third one's sex, sex. And he probably gets up to some freaky stuff.
No,
and
well,
I think
also,
like,
I'm sorry, good.
No, yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say, Vince just has an obsession for big muscular dudes. Like just look at his history. Hogan was like his creation, right? Hogan's a big muscular guy, and Brock, big muscular guy. You know, even down to Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior was his guy. Like Vince created that character and built up Jim Hellwig and big muscular guy. And there's another wrestler too that Vince was trying to push really hard, and it didn't work out because the guy couldn't put a sentence together. When he cut a promo, you never knew what he was talking about, but the guy was chiseled. He was a big guy. Jason, you know what I'm talking about?
Ahmad Johnson?
Ahmed Johnson. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Vince loved Ahmed Johnson. Like, all the boys hated him, though. The boys, they hated Ahmed Johnson. But Vince just has this obsession with big, muscular dudes, man. Yeah. And Brock falls into that category. So, I believe it, you know. I mean, shit, didn't Brock like throw the belt at him one time?
Yeah.
Like when they was in gorilla position, he threw the belt and you hear Vince saying, asshole.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
Yeah, but then like Vince McMahon, like the thing with Brock Lesnar, just kept giving him loads of money. So like talking about Brock Lesnar being part-time, Vince would put him on like $3-5 million a year to show up for like 6 times a year or something stupid.
A couple times and
yeah,
because like to take it just to the race thing as well. Because I know in the documentary they say, you know, he's not racist and all that, but Bobby Lashley, and again, Vince obviously loves his big muscular men, and Bobby Lashley is an absolute savage.
Oh
and
yeah.
They didn't really do anything with him. He could have been in like Brock Lesnar's place and a very believable, tough wrestler, but they didn't seem to do much with him.
No, I agree. And I think one of the most underrated talents that was never fully explored, who could have been world champion, Shelton Benjamin, easily for me.
Yeah.
Like the matches he put on, the Intercontinental titles, other reigns, and that match with Shawn Michaels is always going to be so memorable. He's another guy who I think the last time we've seen like a main champion of color as such was Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, that Kingston.
WrestleMania. And I'm
Didn't
surprised that
like
Vince
Brock
put on him.
And didn't Brock beat him in a squash match?
Oh yeah, he beat him in 5 seconds. Yeah.
That's tell you.
Yeah,
I think
one
Kofi
F5 and that was it.
I think Kofi only won because like fans as well, is it? Like the fans really wanted Kofi, so that's the only reason really that
he wasn't.
And Shelton Benjamin, I don't know if I dreamed this, but can anybody remember a match where he like ran up a ladder on the ropes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing. Shelton
I think
Benjamin.
that was
I used to do that with the wrestling figures and my little toy ring and stuff, try to reenact.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Shelton Benjamin is a great athlete and he never pushed to the main event level. Well, he had a match with Triple H maybe once, but never really pushed. But yeah, again, like Bobby Lashley is a great example.
Right.
Was champion a little bit through like the COVID era, but was kind of about it, really.
Yeah.
Big E got the championship for a little bit, and he got hurt, I think. But he was great.
But again, Big E, a big muscular guy, going back to the Vince thing.
Vince loves he loves big muscular dudes, man. He just, he's
Jason, don't be showing your guns off in front of Vince.
What? You got guns. You want to come work out with me? I'm Mr. McMahon, damn it.
Don't drop the soap, Jason.
Vince was jacked too. Like they showed a picture of him, I guess when he was on vacation with Linda, and he was just in his little Speedos or whatever. I'm like, Vince was a big dude.
Yes.
Oh
but
man.
Then I think it goes back to the whole steroid thing, right? Like,
there's no way he got that big that fast. There's no way he did it natural.
What do you think of interviews?
Jason?
What do you think about those interviews, man? He's a terrible interviewer. He gets in their face. He takes everything personally. It's like, geez, Vince, like,
I take no responsibility for the deaths of what. You give me that stupid look,
That's where the smoke and mirrors kind of fade away, and the actual real man starts to show himself, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, he's very, and is what I took. It's like, man, anything sets him off, and he's.
I think we pretty much mostly agree though, where when he starts from the screw job, especially in the Montreal screw job, is where I think everyone saw the real Vince McMahon.
Right.
I don't think at that point, I think what Ryan was saying, I don't think he was playing a character who did it too well. I mean, that was just the real him. And I'm really surprised that Linda went along with all of this as well. And like, are they still married to this day? Because I'm sure Vince McMahon's on dates with other women at this point. I don't know what that situation is.
I believe they're married. They're probably married, but not together. You know what I mean? Because if you even in the documentary, they were like Jim Cornette brought this up. I was watching Jim Cornette's channel, and he was reviewing all 6 episodes. He was like, "Yeah, you noticed that Vince and Linda were never in the same room together. They filmed their shit separately." So I think it's one of those things where it's a partnership, it's a business partnership, and marriage on paper. But as far as like intimate, man, they probably haven't done it since '85, man.
She likes the green though. She likes the green like Vince though. So it's the money. You're gonna keep you around.
100%. Well, before we kind of close things out, Ryan, we'll start with you first. Is there anything else you want to add about the documentary you haven't discussed so far and you want to touch on as well?
I think it was a really well done, produced, consumable content for newcomers, especially with Netflix coming on. But again, I just didn't delve as much as I wanted to. But that stuff is there. There's like Dark Side of the Ring and all that sort of stuff if you really want to get into stuff. But I would have just liked a little bit more. But there was things in here that I didn't fully understand, like the earlier days of WrestleMania and the territory takeovers. And so I did find that really interesting. But I do, if all of this does come out to be true about Vince, I would like to hear more, a delve deep into the psyche of Vince.
Yeah, and I mean, I could be wrong, but personally, I think if it all comes out about him, which is true, and once these court cases are done, I have a feeling there'll be another documentary, and a lot more people will be up to speaking out about him at that point because it's been confirmed, and they'll be like, "Oh, we noticed this incident backstage in '92 or whatever," you know.
Because one thing I did find quite interesting at the very end, obviously Bruce Pritchard's like a yes man of Vince, but you get a little bit of an understanding to like his wife had cancer, 4 years life expectancy, and Vince made sure she had the best care. Now 24 years later, so I can kind of get it. Would he still be a yes man after all this stuff that came out? Because obviously this was done mostly before all that.
Yeah,
but I'd be interested to hear his perspective now on Vince.
I think it's tough because, like, with certain people like that, like, they've been around Vince the whole time. So Vince has made them rich. Vince gave his wife all the care that she needed in that time. So, like, that's a lot of sentimental stuff that maybe he might override for what Vince did personal life-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. But Norin, how about yourself? Is there anything else in the documentary you haven't touched on you'd like to bring up?
No, not really. Like, we've pretty much talked about everything, and like I think everybody had good opinions, and we all kind of feel a little bit the same, but also like, you know, some of us liked it more and then others didn't. I want to just say, I guess, like, if there's anybody out there, any women or men or anybody out there that's having a problem or you need to talk to people, there are places you can go and talk to. People will listen to you and all that kind of stuff. So I want to shout that out too, because that's the most important thing, is that those people out there that are victims, they have voices and they can go out there, and like there are places where you can go talk to and people will help you.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Especially nowadays, there's definitely more resources than back when.
Definitely.
No, brother, good shout. No, thank you for bringing that up as well. It's very important. Jason, how about yourself?
Yeah, I was just not thinking, you know, the whole part about Ashley really broke my heart. The documentary.
Yeah.
More than anything, I didn't know all the details about that because I think she committed suicide. I kind of remember when she died, it was a shock because I mean I was a fan of Ashley. She was great when she was, and when she died, it was, man, it was, wow, so young. It felt like man, what happened? And then you hear that she was probably like sexually assaulted or something during that time period, and that, you know, who knows, that might have messed her up, and maybe it caused, you know, was in effect from, you know, what happened to her. And I was like, that's terrible. I hated that happened.
Well, one thing I'll add to that, Jason, and anyone who's interested, is if you go to Rene Dupree's YouTube channel,
I've been watching.
he had Paul London as a guest.
Yeah.
And Paul London for a brief time dated Ashley and said about like she mentioned it at the time and also to him when they were dating about the whole Vince McMahon situation. So give a bit of insight about that. But yeah, that was quite shocking to hear that was also happening later on in like kind of the PG era of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Rashad, how about yourself?
Well, you know, yeah, the documentary, like I said before, didn't really offer anything new to fans like us that already know a lot of the story, but it was still good to go down memory lane and just relive those moments like WrestleMania 3 and, you know, stuff like that. So it was just good for nostalgic purposes and reliving those memories. And also, even though we didn't learn much about Vince McMahon, the person, but in a lot of ways we did, because through the actions of the stories that you hear, the things that transpired, kind of tells you all you need to know about the man. You know, he'll screw you over to save his business. His family is his family, but still is all a work. You know what I'm saying? Everything with him is a work, and it only becomes a shoot when it affects him negatively. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, everything is a work to him, and he takes no accountability for nothing. That's another thing I took away from this too. Vince does not take responsibility for anything. And that says a lot about a person's character when you can't even save one time. Okay, well, I was wrong for that, or I should have done that. I take no responsibility for anything. So I think in a lot of ways, after this conversation, I think it's safe to say that we did learn more about Vince than we think we did. You know, we might not have heard a lot of behind the scenes stories, but just listen to the man talk. If you listen to a person talk long enough, you'll know who that motherfucker is. you know.
Yeah.
And I think we learned more about Vince than we let on, man. So with that being said, yeah, I did enjoy the documentary. I'll definitely watch it again with some drinks, and yeah, that's it, and that's all, man. I dug it. Gatorade.
The sweet stuff.
Sweet stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one important point to bring up as well, Rashad. You mentioned about like he doesn't take any accountability. Even with the Owen Hart stuff, he was like, even if it was my son lying out there, I would have still continued on with the show.
Right.
And I was like, wow. They say that about your own flesh and blood as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just what Jason
for $1. What's that?
Just what Jason was saying about Ashley as well. Like, allegedly covered the rape up just to help his business, really, just so it didn't get exposed. Like, that's not good, man. That's I think he is very much a lot of parallels with the Joker. He's an unreliable narrator from the very get-go. I'm going to show you as much as I want you to see. And
that's a good comparison.
That's
a good comparison. Yeah, like with the Joker, everything is a multiple choice. You know, he has 5 different stories about how he got the scars on his face. You know, which one's true? Take a guess.
Like the first line out of his mouth is like, I can't tell you all the stories. And that's like...
That's right.
Facts. Damn. Yeah. That's dope.
That's it. I didn't even think of that, to be honest.
Yeah. That's good enough.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a great shout, Ryan. I just want to quickly add this in. Sin here as well. Hey, Sin, what's going on? She said, I don't enjoy wrestling, but it's been interesting to listen to the discussion while I've been at work. Well, thanks for tuning in, Sin, and everyone else.
Thanks, Sin.
Jimmy saying going to WrestleMania would be top 3 bucket list item for sure.
Do it.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys about the Mr. McMahon documentary. It is on Netflix for anyone who wants to check it out. Just before we wrap up and say our goodbyes, I'll just quickly hand over to my guests just to plug their channel and what they've got coming up. Rashad, do you want to go first, my friend?
Yes, sir. So my channel is Rashad G Reviews, and talk movies and all kinds of stuff. Whatever comes to this crazy brain of mine, I put it on wax and hope you all enjoy it. So I just dropped a review last night for Joker 2. I'm not even gonna try to say the title of it. Fuluk at the Dukes, whatever. Joker Part 2. I dropped a review for that last night. And what do I got coming up? What do I got coming up?
Nothing.
Tomorrow's what, Friday? I got nothing coming up. Damn, it escapes me. Yeah, Joe. Oh well, Saturday I'm gonna be on Perp Minded's channel. We're gonna be talking horror. So he has a horror podcast, and I've been on there for the past 5 weeks. So so tune in for that if you can. Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And got a lot of horror content coming up. Norin, I know how you feel about that. You're like, all y'all want to talk about horror now, but look, I do this 24/7, blood. I get it. Norin, listen, I bow down, bro. I'm not as big a horror fan as you, but this month I'm gonna definitely dedicate to horror and reactions, reviews, and all that stuff. So I'm gonna be also reacting to movies I've been afraid to watch my whole life. So I'm gonna man up and finally watch it.
I thought you would never be scared.
Oh no, I'm scared. Yeah. Like last year I had to watch Demons, and this year I'm watching Demons 2. So y'all pray for me. Demons scared the out of me, and I heard 2 was just as scary. So yeah,
nice.
Look out for those reactions as well.
Sweet. Well, definitely check out Rashad's channel. Links down below in the description box. And yes, he did drop a review for Joker because he's been accepted in the Critics Association. So congrats as well, Rashad. That's
yes, I'm a critic. Yo, Mike, hold up real quick, man. I walked in yesterday, right? I went to go because they give you a wristband for the press, right? So typically, I'm with Mike. I mean, I'm with Perez. So they had to say, hey, who are you? I'm with him. I'm press. He's the press. I walked in last night, man. I had my press band on. I walked in. Lady said, if you're with the press, make sure you show your band. I said, it's morphin' time.
Nice.
With a guy. I said, it's well morphin' time.
Like Wonder Woman with her bracelets.
Yeah, I had to let her know, man. Like, look, I had to hit with the Shador Sanders here. And she shut up. Yeah, I sat down, but I felt good about myself.
And massive congrats, Rashad. Well earned. You should have had it a long time ago, my friend, but that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Sin's asking which association. Is it Florida, right?
Yeah. Critics Association of Central Florida.
That's the one. Well, Rashad, awesome, man. And definitely check out his Joker review as well and the horror stuff coming up. Norin, how about yourself, man? What have you got coming up on your channel?
Oh, I'm Norin Radd89. That's my channel, and over here we typically talk about horror. I also talk about music content, though. I've been building up my vinyl collection and physical media, so I talk about 4Ks and Blu-rays and stuff like that too, as well. But mostly on the channel now for October, I'm doing the Universal monster movies. So I've been going back to The Mummy, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, doing reviews for those, and then putting them in a tier list of showing you like which ones I think are like the all-time classics to which ones that didn't land for me and stuff like that. So, and then I also have some Courage the Cowardly Dog deep dives I'm going to be doing with Steve, and then me and my buddy Angel from Voices from the Mausoleum, we're going to be shooting a special review for one of the Universal monster movies as well.
Nice, man. Yeah, a lot of horror content coming up on Norin's channel, diving into the 30s, and also end of this month we're going to be reviewing Lake Mungo together.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that collaboration. I'm looking forward to that as well. But yeah, Norin's links down below in the description box as well. Jason, how about yourself? What are you working on?
Yeah, I just put a video, a live stream, actually just before this one, with me and my friend Nick. We did our top 10 favorite albums from 1962.
Nice.
So we just dropped that tomorrow night, 10 p.m. my time, which means you'll be in bed, Mike and Ryan. Me and Nick and Briar, I'm doing a series where I'm going through the history of rock and roll, and this is going to be part 2. We're going to cover the British invasion and folk rock period of the mid 60s. So we're doing that tomorrow night on my channel. Yeah, and I've been still doing my top 100 favorite movies list, going through those, also ranking of all the Disney animation movies, and also did start a series where I'm counting down my 10 favorite European cities that I've visited. So yeah, got lots of.
Nice, Jason. Yeah, especially if you love music, definitely head over to Jason's channel as well. He's always streaming on his channel, or Jacob Martin, Briar's as well. So awesome stuff, Jason. Look forward to seeing what you got coming up.
Yeah.
And finally, Ryan, how about yourself, man?
So I've got a short film with starring Mike coming up, hopefully November time. It's coming together a little bit, getting there. And yeah, some more movie reviews. Again, Halloween's coming, so spooky stuff. Not to steal from Rashad, I had it planned before, honestly, I heard you say it. But top 5 scary movies I've been terrified, too scared to watch. And hopefully I'll get round to them this year. And as well with the Joker review, I will watch it, Rashad, but I'm trying to stay away, even though I haven't heard the best stuff. So I'm going to say that tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, also a Joker review coming as well.
Cool.
Nice. Some awesome stuff, Ryan. And yeah, we'll share more details on the short movie as it comes along as well. Definitely looking forward to that. And link to Ryan's channels down below. One thing I just want to quickly touch on before we wrap up, and literally take 2 minutes because I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. One thing I don't think we've really talked about, which was addressed here, was Hulk Hogan's acting career.
It was a blink and you missed it.
Blink and you missed it. We didn't, because they were like saying like, oh, Hulk was onto bigger and better things in Hollywood, but they touched on No Holds Barred, which I've yet to see. Of course, we got
a watch party for that, Mike. We have to make that happen, bro.
I'm up for that. Of course, I think it was last year, Santa with Muscles with Hulk Hogan we watched.
Suburban Commando was probably his best movie. Suburban Commando. Actually, I liked that back in the day. I used to like Suburban Commando.
Yeah, I remember as a kid watching it, but I've never seen it since then, so I don't know what it's like. But yeah, I just had to bring in that Hulk Hogan's acting career very quickly before we wrap up.
What a career!
Because it wasn't really a career at all. If I'm free.
Didn't Hogan, one of his lies, he said that he was supposed to have the part in Predator and he backed out, and that's how Jesse Ventura got it? I want to say that was one of his lies that he told.
It's hard to tell with Terry. It's really hard to tell with him. I thought it was funny that he, right before he started talking about how he was going on the stand to talk about Vince, how they offered him immunity or whatever, and then he like lied on the stand. I'm like, you fucking idiot, dog! Like that's not what immunity means.
Hey, well, you know what? At least Hogan came clean about snitching on Jesse, because for years he denied that he snitched on Jesse to Vince.
That's true.
Now he's like, yeah, I told, you know, we say a beeline to Vince. Yeah, I drew a beeline to Vince, and that's how you found out. Whatever that means.
Yeah,
Got
it
it.
all came out.
Hogan's not the only one though, the wrestler who's had a pretty bad movie career. Has anybody seen Santa Slay with Goldberg?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't like
Seen
that
some
one, man?
highlights. I've never
Damn.
seen the movie.
That was one of my favorite Christmas watches like
It
3 years
is
ago.
wild. Honestly, at the start, there's a scene where he comes in and crashes in on their family dinner, and it is crazy. Just watch it. Even just watch that clip on YouTube. It's wild.
I think we might have to have a wrestling Christmas watch along this year. Santa's
Oh
Slay.
yeah, man.
Yo, count me in, bro. Count me
I would
in.
watch that. I love that.
Sweet. Well, consider that done. But hey,
It's free
been a
on
blast
YouTube.
talking- Well, it's been a blast talking to you guys about Mr. McMahon documentary. Again, please go subscribe to all my guests. Go show them some love. And yeah, till next time we see you guys, we'll be seeing you later. Take care,
Peace
everyone.
out.